Today on the 2020 Awards podcast, we're looking back at Steven Spielberg's Oscar-winning film, Schindler's List.
It's dangerous to me. You have to understand, Gert is under enormous pressure. You have to think of it in his situation. He's got this whole place to run. He's responsible for everything that goes on here. All these people. He's got a lot of things to worry about. And he's got the war, which brings out the worst in people. Never the good, always the bad. Always the bad.
Schindler's List was written by Steven Zaillian and directed by Steven Spielberg, based on a true story of a self-made German businessman who grows his business by exploiting World War II. He eventually comes to see his Jewish workforce as human beings and then spends his fortunes in order to save them all from their Nazi persecutors. Made for $22 million, the film grossed over $90 million. It received 12 Oscar nominations and took home 7, including Best Script, Director, and Picture. And this year leads the 2020 awards with a record-breaking 13 nominations. My guest today is filmmaker Brian McDonald. Brian is the director of the award-winning short film Whiteface and the author of several books on storytelling, including Golden Theme and Invisible Ink. Brian, you're here like every week.
I'm here a lot. I've been here a lot.
But I know you saw this 20 years ago when it came out.
I did.
And your feelings on it then were?
My feelings on it then were, I was blown away by it. I had never seen a movie like that. I mean, I'd seen a lot of movies, and of course, but and spent my teenage years seeing everything that I could, and foreign films, and all of that stuff. And I to this day haven't seen a movie that had the impact up until that day and since that day on me that movie had. And I think on the audience, people don't like to admit they had this reaction, it seems, but I'd never seen that kind of. There was a kind of quiet when the credits were done. Nobody moved. The movie ended, nobody moved. The credits, it's not like they're short credits. Nobody moves. The lights go up. Nobody moves. There was a kind of respectful silence that they had just seen something and experienced something they hadn't seen or experienced before. And I don't think it was just the subject matter. I think a lot of it's the craft. But I haven't seen that before, and I haven't seen it since.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You watched it with me again the other night, but your opinion seems about the same.
Yeah.
I looked over. You seemed very moved by it.
I was.
So nothing's really changed for you in 20 years.
Yeah, nothing has changed except my appreciation for it has deepened.
Yeah. Had you seen it? Like, you'd seen it how many times in between in those 20 years?
Not a lot of times, because it takes a lot out of me to watch it. And I want it to take a lot out of me when I watch it. So I try to keep a distance so that it doesn't become just a movie. I don't want it to become just a movie. I do that with some things. I don't watch Shawshank Redemption that much.
Yeah.
There's some things I just can't have them just be movies.
Yeah.
And so I don't watch it that much. Mm-hmm. Seen it a few times.
Yeah. I hadn't seen it until I saw it 20 years ago, and then I hadn't seen it until about 6 months ago, because I remember, it was the same thing. It was like, oh, that was powerful. It's not like a movie you want to throw on every week and, hey.
It's not like Jaws.
You guys want to come over and watch Schindler's?
Yeah. Get the popcorn. It's not that kind of movie.
So I hadn't seen it, until about 6 months ago, and then watching it again the other day, and it was like, I really thought I was kind of going to be like, I don't want to sit through this twice inside of 6 months, but like I'm kind of looking forward to seeing it again now.
Yeah, I almost watched it again between the screenings.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I wasn't able to get the time to watch it, but I did almost watch it again.
Yeah,
so that I had it fresh in my mind. But it's so well made. Yeah. That there is a distance that I can look at the craft and get a little distance, but it really works on my emotions. I mean, it really does move me.
Yeah. What do you think that is? What is it about it that? What is it as an audience member, and then what is it as a filmmaker that moves you?
I guess as a filmmaker, I appreciate that it does move me.
Okay. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't happen that much.
Yeah.
People think it does and pretend that it does, but
Yeah.
there's a difference in the way people talk about things that move them and the way they talk about things that don't.
Right.
When people are, pretending almost to themselves, I think, that they were moved, they will say, and I've probably said this before on this podcast, but they will say things like, yeah, it was really good. It was good. You can tell that, no, that's not the way you talk about things when they're good. You're trying to convince yourself that you had some moment, or you read some review that told you it was supposed to be good, or it's a subject you're supposed to, have some reverence for or something. This really does move people. And some people don't like to be moved, and that's another thing. And they feel manipulated, which is, I think when you talk about manipulation and you're talking about film, I don't think that's a real thing to talk about, because that's the nature of drama, is manipulation. None of it's real. It's never real. Those people aren't married, or this is whatever. That guy didn't really die. It's all pretend. So it's all manipulation. So it seems like I don't understand it as a concept. Like, I understand that there's bad craft. Oh, I could see them pulling the strings.
Right.
That's different. But to call something manipulative, it's like, it's all manipulative. At its best, it's manipulative.
Yeah. Well, it's like a magic trick.
Yeah. It's not real magic.
Yeah.
right.
Oh my God, that guy's floating. I wish I could do that. No,
Yeah. Yeah.
You're not. They're not floating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if I answered your question or rambled.
Well, it's funny because when we saw it the other day, one of our friends, Allan, was there, and Allan has his own podcast, and he podcasts about movies, and I listened to that. But listening to his podcast about Schindler's, he was just like, he was speechless, and he was just like, I didn't know I could feel like this after watching a movie. And he's quite a bit younger than us.
Right.
And so I think he's never really had any kind of emotionally powerful films to watch, and as a kid growing up, and so it's like, I feel like I agree with you what you're saying about this movie, but I feel like there used to be a lot more movies like this that I would watch, and then I'd be like, oh my God, I'm going to sit here and think about that for a long time. So one of the things I've been thinking about is like, because despite all of the accolades this movie gets, it kind of gets dismissed.
Uh-huh.
And I think it's because it's an important film, and I put that in quotes.
Right.
And I think a lot of people feel like, well, I'm supposed to like it, or I'm anti-Semitic.
Right.
Or, because it's about the Holocaust, I have to like it. And there's lots of movies about the Holocaust. I have no desire to watch any of them.
Like Life is Beautiful?
I haven't seen that, actually.
It's terrible.
Is it?
Oh,
I've never seen it either.
great.
Yeah. But like I said, I think to me, it's like this movie, I could watch it again right now.
He wasn't breaking new ground. There's been a ton of movies about the Holocaust.
Right,
Schindler's
exactly.
List.
Exactly. But why does this one stand up for, at least for me, above everything else that I've seen? I think it's just because it's beautiful filmmaking.
Yeah, it's so well crafted. It doesn't matter. Of course, it matters what this film is about. I don't mean that, but like E.T. can move people, it doesn't matter what the subject is in terms of moving an audience, because pretty quickly you can lose them. I've seen movies where it had a very important subject, but you couldn't be more bored. Like, I'm bored in this movie. I don't want to watch this movie anymore. I understand this is an important thing and it needs to be talked about. I could not be more sleepy.
I'll read about it.
Yeah. And Schindler's is not that kind of film. It uses all the tools of drama to suck people in and to get them to think about those events differently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also think the other thing is that, to me, this movie is set during the Holocaust, but it's not really about the Holocaust.
Well, people do that a lot. They do this. Bobby Fischer's another movie where people would say, oh, it's a movie about chess. It's like, you can't make a movie about chess, and chess is like, I don't play chess. can't play it, right?
Yeah.
And most
Which
people
is
who
why
watch
I
that
love
movie don't
playing
either.
chess against you.
Is that why? You almost always
I
win.
almost always win.
Well, probably most people who love that movie don't know a ton about chess. It's about a father and son.
Right.
And that's why it's
Yeah.
relatable. And
Right.
that's why it sucks you in.
Right.
And this is about a guy that's changing.
Right. It's about a guy who's changing. It's about a guy who, who changes, who could be a terrible human being and starts off not as the greatest human being and changes. And I think it says something about who we can be in horrible circumstances. And a lot of people don't like that because they think that makes it a happy, feel-good thing.
Well, then the
But-
Ray Fiennes character is another guy who could change, but
doesn't.
doesn't.
But
It
doesn't
goes
change.
the opposite
And he even
way.
tries.
Right, yeah,
There's
he
a
even-
beautiful sequence where he tries.
Right.
And he can't.
Yeah, where he talks to Schindler, and Schindler tells him, real power is not killing people. It's saying I pardon you.
Yeah.
And he tries it, and he's just like, I can't wear this suit.
Yeah.
Right.
This
Yeah.
is not who I am. And
Yeah.
he's like, and he even says like, I pardon you.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
it's just like, it doesn't feel right coming on.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there are real life stories. This is one of them, but there are real life stories where people do great things in horrible circumstances, and it's a matter of where you choose to point the camera in a way. Somebody said the difference between a happy ending and a bad ending or a sad ending is when you choose to end the story.
Right.
Right. And that's true. So it's like, yeah, a lot of people complain about the ending. Oh, it's a feel-good ending, blah, blah, blah. Well, the war ended. If you were in a war and it ended, you'd feel pretty good that day.
Right.
You'd feel pretty good that day, the end of the war. So it's not like, there's nothing false about that, and if you survived,
And they're not making
a
up the
horrible,
ending.
right?
They're not.
That's what
yeah,
happened.
that's the weird thing. I hear so many people complain about this ending, and it's like, what? I don't understand.
How'd you think it was going to end?
The war ended, and these people survived because of the actions that this man took. So it was like, I guess that's happy.
Yeah.
But that's what happened.
Right.
So I don't know. It's weird to me how people kind of like want to shoot down the ending. I don't really understand what that is. I think that goes back to this like.
Yeah, how is it supposed to end? How is there going to be a bad ending?
I
They
don't
all
know.
die?
Yeah.
'Cause that's,
And
they didn't.
and why? It's like people endings again. I've talked about this before, but endings are not something you just do or don't do. It's what the thing has been leading up to, right? It's been leading to this ending. This is where it's going. It's like a math equation. This and this equal this.
Well,
Right?
also, it's a true story, so
Right.
those particular Jews did not die.
Right. And they're pretty happy about it. Right.
Wouldn't I'd be happy about it?
And their children and grandchildren are pretty happy about
I
it.
guess that's cheesy.
They could have changed it and made it about a different group of Jews who did die, maybe.
Oh,
Right, but
there you go.
Right. But there's in some ways, that story. That's probably the story a lot of people would tell, and they would think that's much more important. Probably fewer people would go see it, and it doesn't really, unless you can find a way that there's a reason for somebody to tell that story. Like there's something that you can get out of it, learn from it. Right? Schindler's List is a film where you can go, oh, so. You would rather be Schindler than Goeth,
Yeah.
right? You hope you would be that person, given circumstances that were less than perfect. And these things happen in lives from time to time, and you are asked to, or challenged, I should say, to do the right thing in circumstances that could harm you. And who do you want to be? I mean, that's a real thing. So I think it's worth talking about and worth thinking about.
Right, and most people think that's who I would be.
Yeah.
And that's the story you want to see.
Yeah.
And that's the story you can relate to.
Yeah. I would like to see, most people do think that's who they would be, and I think they're wrong.
Right.
Right.
Most people think they'd be Schindler instead of somebody who turned a blind eye.
Yeah. That's a story worth telling.
Most people weren't.
But that's a story worth telling. But that's not this story.
Right.
But I think that's a story worth telling.
Yeah.
Somebody who thinks, oh, I'd be fine. I'd do the right thing.
Well, this one got nominated for a lot of Oscars and, not strangely enough, a lot of 2020 awards. Stands up.
Yeah, well, that's good. Well, I'm surprised.
It actually got one more nomination, and I have to say I'm actually kind of surprised because I do feel like there's a big backlash against this movie.
There is.
And I don't get it. I feel like it's just sort of like, ooh.
I think it's because of some of the stuff Spielberg's done since then.
No, even at the time.
I think it's
At the time, there's a backlash? It was pretty celebrated.
Yeah, but there's a certain kind of person who...
You can say it, anti-Semite.
No. No. I don't know if they saw it.
So Mel Gibson wasn't at the theater with you guys?
I don't know if he was.
there was some guy mumbling.
No, there were people who didn't like it at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I talked to them. A lot of filmmakers that I talked to.
Huh. Yeah, I feel like there are a lot of filmmakers that just kind of write this movie off.
Yeah.
It's jealousy?
No, it's...
I don't think they know what they're looking at.
I think that's true. I think they don't know what they're looking at. And I also think that there's a weird thing about emotions. That anything that actually moves people must be manipulative and must be less... These are people who live in their heads. And they will like the thing about the puzzle that they had to figure out more than they'll like the thing that moved them.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, I didn't know what was going on. It was confusing. It's like, that movie didn't make any sense. I know that's why it was great. That's a different kind of person. And I think it's not really the proper use of drama. So to make it a puzzle, I don't think it's dramatic.
Well, let's just go through the nominations Schindler's List did get and see if there's anything we want to talk about. Best sound design?
Sound design is beautiful in that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good.
Anything jump out at you?
Yeah, one of my favorite things is that the sound design is really great. Sound design, when it works, is it works emotionally. It's invisible.
Yeah.
But there's a scene where Schindler is trying to talk. What's his name? You know what I'm talking about? His guy.
Ben Kingsley.
Ben Kingsley. So Schindler's trying to talk Ben Kingsley into introducing him to some people that can invest in the company.
Right.
And so Ben Kingsley's going to do this, and other people are going to do that. And Ben Kingsley's like, well, what are you going to do? And he's like, well, I'm not good at the work. That's not my thing. The work. I'm not good at the work. And he says, I'm good at the presentation. And he has his elbows on the table as he says this, and he's wearing this leather jacket, which until now has not squeaked.
Right.
But when he does the presentation, there's this squeak, and it's beautiful the way he spreads
right.
it. It's really great. So either it happened and they left it in, which is smart, or it didn't happen and they put it in, which was smart.
Yeah.
But it sort of underlines what he's saying in a really nice way, in a really nice, subtle way. I don't think most people would ever catch it. They would assume, well, leather squeaks.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But if you're trying to get a clean dialogue track, squeaky leather is not what you want.
Exactly.
Right? So it was left in or put in on purpose.
Yeah. Next one kind of surprises me, only because it doesn't seem obvious enough, which is best makeup.
Oh. Interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder if they're talking about, there are a lot of gun
deaths.
Yeah.
A lot of gaunt people, too.
There are a lot of gaunt people. That's true, too. Yeah, that is interesting that it...
Yeah.
Well, it got nominated for an Oscar for that, too. I wonder
Yeah.
if
It
it was
did.
just swept
Yeah.
up in, this was the best movie, it's going to get everything.
Maybe. I have to say sometimes the makeup, if it doesn't work, when it does work, you don't
You should
see
notice
it,
it.
right? But when it doesn't work, you can often be pulled out, especially of a period piece, you can often be pulled out. Like, that doesn't seem like a person from then,
Right.
The hair is a little off, or
Yeah.
often with women's makeup, it's off in period pieces.
Too modern.
Yeah.
Too modern, right? I mean, if you watch any period piece from the 60s or something, it's like, you
Yeah,
can see,
but
oh, that's
They
me.
have
know
the
what?
smoky
I
eyes.
will-
Yeah.
Big eyelashes.
Yeah.
I'll sacrifice that so that Julie Christie can be in Dr. Zhivago.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Best costume design by Anna Sheppard.
It was good. It was great.
So
Seamless.
we did a whole podcast with Ron Lehman talking about the costume design. So I would say check that out if you want to hear more about it. But yeah, I mean, I'm this was the thing that was interesting to me about the costumes was like there was such a wide span.
Yeah.
You ran from like the Jews in the concentration camp to literally them running around naked.
Right.
To the high aristocracy of the German Nazi Party members, to the German uniforms, and it was very clear like who was who.
Right.
You never were like, wait, is that someone in the Jewish camp or?
Right. No, it's
it
true.
was very specific. Like, yeah, you could just by looking at them, you instantly could identify who they were.
Right.
So.
And Schindler had to be a snappy dresser. That was part of his thing, right?
Yeah.
So he had to have a certain look.
Yeah.
That worked, and Ben Kingsley had a nice contrasting look.
Right.
That seemed perfect.
Yeah. It was also interesting, like he was always very put together.
Yeah.
The accountant.
Yeah.
It's like his fashion, it seemed
Very
like
meticulous.
it was all accounted for.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And he was brilliant in the movie.
Well,
Kingsley.
we're getting to that.
Okay.
So.
All right.
Best art direction, Allan Starski. Same thing. I mean,
Same thing,
yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like you knew where you were at all times. It was
Yeah.
never like, wait,
Where's this?
whose house is this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you always knew.
Yeah.
Yeah, it works.
Yeah.
The movie works, in a way. It's false in a way what's happened with the Academy Awards. I mean, probably since the first Academy Awards. To separate these things like this, because it's not a bunch of things. It's one thing. It's a movie. It's all one thing, and it should all work together. It's the stuff that doesn't work usually that stands out.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a weird thing to separate it all and say, "Oh, the costumes are good." It's like if it works, it probably all works.
Or like when movies get nominated, but the director does it or the actors don't.
Yeah, that's really lame. When that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That happened to Spielberg, I think, a few times before.
Oh yeah.
Before Schindler's List, he didn't get nominated.
Well,
In
what was
fact,
the deal with Ryan? Saving Private Ryan didn't.
He got nominated. He
Wait.
won for Saving Private Ryan, but it didn't win Best Picture.
Right.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
He
But
won director.
interestingly, like Color Purple, and people have their problems with Color Purple and whatever, we can talk about it or not, but Color Purple, nobody knew who Whoopi Goldberg was. She hadn't been in anything, right? She'd done a Broadway thing, but she hadn't been in anything.
Oh, she was a comedian. She had a one-woman show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no one knew who she was.
No
She
one
came
knew
out
who
of
she
nowhere.
was. Oprah, nobody knew who she was.
Local talk show host.
Right? So nobody really knew who she was. These people are still people know from Color Purple, and he introduced them to the world, and they got nominated. I think there were 8 nominations, and a lot of the actors got nominated. And he didn't get nominated as a director, and I thought, well, this... Actually, I didn't watch the Oscars for years after that. Years. Until you invited me to an Oscar party or something, and I didn't want to go. Because I thought, there's something wrong with that. How did that happen? How did these people give these performances that you think are worthy?
If the director wasn't nominated, were they? Right.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, I see. This is lame. And I watched them since I was a little kid. I stopped watching for years and years.
Well, this next category goes right into that same pool. Best cinematography, Janusz Kaminski.
It's
Beautiful.
It's outstanding.
It is.
Yeah.
It is outstanding.
And it does that thing where it's like when stuff's supposed to look like crap, like squalor, it looks like squalor. And when it's supposed to look glamorous, it looks glamorous.
He does an amazing job.
Yeah.
And
all those scenes in the restaurant look so different from everything in the prison camp.
Yeah.
Like everything in the restaurant is like sharp and crisp and high contrast. Everything in the camp is just kind of like muddy looking, handheld.
Yeah. It's really brilliant. I mean, the thing that these things all work in concert in a way that you're there. Even black and white, black and white is an abstraction, right? It's not the real world, but you're there in it, and it's really happening, and you're seeing it happen. You feel like a witness to something.
Yeah.
right? You're not watching a movie when you watch that movie. It's,
Right.
You know? Yeah, you're a witness to history, which is interesting. Not very many people have ever done that, I don't think.
Yeah. Best editing, Michael Kahn.
Michael Kahn is some kind of crazy genius anyway, I think.
Yeah.
And he did a great job in this, and he always does a great job.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, the thing for me is like, this is almost a 3.5 hour movie. Mm-hmm. And
It's not that long, is it?
it's 3:18 or 3:20, something
yeah.
like that. And I feel like again, like I said, I've watched it twice in 6 months now, and I feel like I'm watching a 2 hour movie every time.
Yeah.
It just, to me, it just moves right along.
I think it does too. I think he does an amazing job with the
Yeah.
editing. Yeah. Yeah, an amazing job. It's interesting.
Of course, they sped everything up by 10%.
Oh, they did.
Yeah, so it's actually a 4 hour movie. They sped it up by 10%.
Anyway, no, it's good. Yeah, I think he did a
Yeah.
good job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well, here's one that gets a lot of crap. Best score, John Williams.
Yeah, John Williams has become sort of the whipping boy of a certain
Yeah.
kind of thinker or filmmaker. I would like to see Spielberg try to not use a score once, just to see, to challenge himself, to push himself.
Yeah.
You know, Hitchcock didn't use a score for
Psycho.
Rear Window. Rear Window has no score.
Wasn't Psycho?
Psycho does have a score.
I forget how that one goes.
But Rear Window doesn't have a score.
Yeah.
I think that I don't think it's his music that is the problem. People complain about his music a lot, but
Everything's so epic.
well, it's
it's
that's
not
not
in
true.
this.
That's not
It's
true, and it's
not
not in
in
everything
this.
he does either.
Right.
It's not in E.T., and it's not that that's what it is. It's I think sometimes it's the spotting. It's where the music is.
Yeah.
Not that it's there or not that it's bad.
But is that his fault? He doesn't decide where it goes, does
Well, he probably sits down with Spielberg and they decide where it
Right.
goes.
Yeah.
And I think there are probably scenes that would work or things that would work without a score. But I never find fault with his scores, with his choices, they never seem inappropriate to me. And strangely, he has a way of sometimes being invisible in a way that people don't notice. I think there's some beautiful stuff in E.T. that people don't notice, beautiful piano stuff that's just that people don't notice or remember or whatever. And sometimes he does that very, very well. But often his music, I don't like when things are, people say something is a character that isn't a character, but often his music is that, right? You can't separate Raiders of the Lost Ark from
Dun, dun, dun. Yeah.
right? Or The Empire Strikes Back, or Star Wars, or even the 1979 Superman movie, or like you can't separate those things. Jaws, right?
Yeah.
It's part of the thing. It works with it, but I can't say it goes unnoticed.
But in those cases, it's not supposed to go unnoticed.
Well, it depends on the composer. It could go unnoticed. There's no reason that it has to be noticed. There's no reason. But
But those are themes too.
Right.
So it's like, you've got like everybody has and I think that's what he's strongest at, is he gives everybody
A very
a theme.
memorable theme that works.
Yeah, he is good at that.
I mean, I don't
Yeah.
think anybody, no one's humming the Schindler's List theme, but
I actually
have.
do.
I
Yeah.
have
Do you?
to.
Yeah.
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 sick fucks.
No, yeah, I do it all the time. It's
Yeah.
actually, I think it's a really
It's a beautiful score.
I think it is beautiful.
And it's like, I remember 20 years ago, like, again, I hadn't seen it, and I've heard so many people kind of slag it, and I was like, oh, yeah, that score, that was terrible. But I hadn't seen it in 20 years. And then when I sat down this year, and it was just like, what are people talking about?
No, it's
This
gorgeous.
is a gorgeous score.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
I think it's beautiful.
And it's really sparse.
Yeah.
And it's
He's
like
really
a lot
good
of
at
it
that.
is just guitar.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
acoustic guitar playing
Yeah.
over stuff. And it's like,
Yeah. And he's always been able to do stuff like that. And
He's very versatile.
he is.
He's all over the place. I mean,
but
he can
you-
do any kind of genre. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, but people don't notice that about him when he does, I mean, like I say, there's stuff in E.T. that people don't remember from E.T. They remember the main theme. But there's some stuff that's just kind of like the guitar stuff in Schindler's that's on the piano that's just gorgeous.
Yeah.
And that nobody ever hears or pays attention to because it sucks you in. But I would say at his best, that is what he does. He does suck you in, even with a score that you're sort of noticing.
Right.
You get
Right.
sucked into the action in Raiders of the Lost Ark, and you get sucked into that Jaws, that shark pursuing people. I love John Williams. I can't say enough good things about him. I would say that most of the time the complaints probably have to do with spotting.
Yeah, yeah. Because I do feel like the few times where I went, it was usually like, I don't think we need music right here.
Right.
But
right.
Yeah.
I also think that Spielberg and his sort of team, John Williams, I think one of the problems they have is that they're really very good. They're better than almost everybody else. Probably than everybody, mostly. For the most part, and more often, they're right. Right? And it's like an imperfection in a mirror. Anything that doesn't work really stands out. So people go, that really sucked because of this thing. Where there's some other thing.
Well, and in the same movie, there's 90% of it works beautifully.
Right.
It's when you don't notice stuff.
Right.
You don't think about it.
Right.
Well, it's like Saving Private Ryan. I have this conversation all the time. People go like, oh, but those bookends. It's like, yes, let's all agree that the bookends in that movie are terrible. But there's like 2 hours and 10 minutes in between those bookends that I dare you to come close to that.
But also, it has to work as a whole, which you say, and the movie doesn't work as a whole because of those bookends.
No, I don't think that's true.
I think it is. We'll talk about that next 2 years
Well,
or whatever.
exactly.
I don't think that's true. I mean, if you say that, then what I was going to say is there are things that don't work at all that people will make excuses for because it's not a mirror with a perfect surface. It's a pockmarked mirror. And so you can't see the mistakes because there's so many of them. And so they start making excuses for them but if it's the thing that's working, I figure if something's working 90%, it's working. You know, I mean,
It's like my car.
Yeah, I like, or if the main idea is working, you know what I mean. If the main idea isn't muddy, so sometimes people can have good photography and blah blah blah, but there's no main idea, or they can have a good whatever, the good acting, whatever, but there's no main idea. But if the main idea is working and it's clear through the storytelling and through the dramatic structure, then a misstep here or there. For me, can be really encouraging because what it says is, it's possible to make something that works unbelievably well and not have it be perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect to work perfectly, if that makes sense.
Right, yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So people think that I want everything to be perfect, but in fact, if there's a mistake, in quotes, in a movie that otherwise works, I'm all over that as a thing that says I can make mistakes and still do something great.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Best Supporting Actor, we have 2 nominees from this film, Ray Fiennes and Ben Kingsley. Again, outstanding.
Yeah.
I keep going back to that word, but like these guys are incredible.
They're amazing in it.
Yeah.
They're amazing in it. And this was Ben Kingsley's amazing year.
Yeah.
Right? Where he had...
But he didn't get
Dave.
nominated for an Oscar for that performance.
For Schindler's?
No.
He should have.
Yeah.
Did he,
Yeah.
for Bobby Fischer, did he get nominated?
No, I don't think so.
He should have. He was great in that.
Yeah.
And he was great in Dave. He's hardly
Yeah.
in it, but he's
Yeah.
brilliant in it.
Yeah.
That guy. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's kind of unfair, too, even with this, because this is the less flashy of the 2 roles. Because Ray Fiennes,
Right.
the evil,
Right.
you know... He's
Psychopath.
a psycho. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's a psychopath. And Ben Kingsley's a mild-mannered accountant. And so it's like that's not going to draw as much attention. But
Also, but he's great in it, but he doesn't have that flashy part. His character doesn't really have as big of a change as Schindler.
Well, yeah. Well, that's
Right.
why
So
he's a
it's not
supporting
sti-
character,
yeah.
too. So,
Yeah, but he's
He does what a supporting actor should do.
yeah.
and he's kind of a conscience. He's kind of the Jiminy Cricket of the movie.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. He's the conscience.
Yeah.
And he does that really well.
But, you know, where he really shines is early on when they're starting to round up all the Jews. And he's the one that's running around with the papers.
Right.
And he's like,
yes.
you forgot your paper. You forgot your paper.
Yeah.
And he's trying to orchestrate keeping these people alive and getting them into a camp as opposed to getting them killed. He's amazing in that stuff.
No, he's really good. And Liam Neeson is good and didn't get nominated, right?
He got nominated by us, yeah.
Oh, he got nominated by us.
Yeah.
Well, he deserves that.
I think he did get nominated. He did get nominated.
Did he?
For
Yeah,
an
he
Oscar.
did.
Okay,
yeah.
good, because he
Yeah.
totally deserves.
Well, let's throw him into the pool while we're talking about actors, because he did get a best actor nomination, and again, this kind of like Ben Kingsley. I feel like Neeson's performance is something that looks very easy to do. Like, it looks like he's not doing anything.
Right.
And I think it's like a huge misconception. Because I think...
It's not as big of a showy of a part as like Tom Hanks in Philadelphia, who got
Exactly.
everything that year.
Right.
Yeah.
Who had all these emotional scenes. He's
Right. Yeah. And,
Yeah.
and I mean, here he's... I think what's kind of marvelous...
But his changes, he does have a big change, but it happens
Well,
so subtly.
he plays a calculating businessman
Selfish man.
who's
Yeah.
not interested in saving anybody's life at the beginning of the film. By the end of it, he's completely changed. But you still like him all the way through. Like, he's
Yeah.
not a
He's
guy...
charming.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is charming.
Which he's
And-
supposed to be, right?
Yeah, yeah,
He's a ladies' man. You
Yeah.
can see why he's
yeah.
attractive.
Yeah.
But he's not sleazy.
No.
Right.
He's not like... And he's not James Bond.
Right.
He's
Right.
just sort of a guy that kind of like knows how to work the system.
Yeah.
He's a salesman
Yeah.
in every way.
Well, there's a really, and this is the thing that people don't understand about setup. A lot of times people will see an end result and they will talk about, oh, that scene or oh, that thing or whatever, without talking about everything that preceded it. Because that's usually what makes a scene or a thing or a character or anything work, right? Speaking of Schindler's being a ladies' man, you see him being a ladies' man throughout the piece. And when he's interviewing secretaries, which is a really great sequence, right? He's interviewing secretaries, and all these beautiful young women are typing, and they're typing like, one letter
Terribly.
per minute,
Yeah.
click, 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 and he's just staring at them. And then there's this like middle-aged woman just typing away with a cigarette hanging out of her
Yeah.
mouth. He's not paying any attention to her at all. And Ben Kingsley later, after that little montage, said, all these women who are kind of milling around. And he goes, it's just a decision secretary. You need a secretary. Just
Yeah.
pick one. And he goes, but they're also qualified. And then there's the scene where the woman comes to him. She hears about Schindler, that Schindler's
Yeah.
saving people. And she comes to him. And the way it's shot is beautiful because he's at the top of these stairs. Or anyway, you see his silhouette come out and look at her and go back in. He won't see her. So she goes home and she gets all dolled up. And she comes back to see him. And he sees her because she's all dolled up. And she's kind of a person that says, oh, I hear you're a good man and you're saving people and you got to save my parents, blah, blah, blah. And he gets, get out of here. That's not who I am, right? He's
He
fighting.
thinks she's Gestapo.
Yeah, right. But he doesn't, he's also
Right, yeah.
refusing the call to
Yeah.
be this guy.
Yeah.
Right? Because in the scene later, I think it's the next scene with Ben Kingsley, he's like, they want me to do these things. I don't know what you're telling people, but I'm not that guy.
Right.
Like he's
Yeah.
resisting
Yeah.
this thing. Right? In the end of that scene, he gives the gives the names of those parents to
Right.
Ben Kingsley. And anyway, but later there's the woman who's the maid of
Good.
evil Nazi. Yeah.
Ray Fiennes' character.
Yeah, Ray Fiennes' character. And, where Ray Fiennes has this weird thing where he's attracted to this woman.
But he's repulsed by her 'cause she's a Jew.
Because she's a Jew, right? So there's this weird thing. And Schindler goes down to talk to her down in the basement where she is, down in the sort of cellar. And they have this talk. And he goes to kiss her. And she recoils and he says, it's not that kind of a kiss. It's gorgeous, but it works because of everything that precedes it.
Yeah.
Not just because of what happens there. And people don't understand that.
Yeah.
They just think, and they talk about scenes as if they stand by themselves. That doesn't stand alone. He's changing. He's not the guy.
The Lothario.
Yeah. Yeah. It's important that it's not that kind of a kiss.
And I don't think you see him with a woman throughout the rest of the movie after that, right?
No, I don't think so.
Until he's back with his wife.
Back with his wife, yeah. Right? But he can't even promise his wife.
Yeah.
Right? When his wife says...
In the beginning,
In the
right?
beginning, yeah. It's like, well, promise
Put her
me
on
nobody...
back on the train.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He can't promise his wife he won't cheat. Yeah. And then it's really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's also another great moment with him where where he's having lunch, and Ben Kingsley brings in the worker, the one-armed man.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, oh, I have somebody here who wants to thank you. And you can see right away he's just sort of like put out by this. Like,
right.
He doesn't want to like deal with this guy. And then, not to be confused with the fugitive, but the one-armed man comes in and won't stop thanking him because the only reason he's alive is because he got this job.
Right.
And Neeson is just doing this thing. He's like, great.
Yeah.
Trying to get him out. I wanna
Trying to
finish
get
my
him
lunch.
out,
Yeah.
but not be a jerk about it. Just trying to be like, and I think he leaves, and then he's like really upset.
Right. He is.
He's
because-
like, yeah. But it's just, again, it's that thing where he's like playing this part where he's presenting one side of himself to the public and then a completely private side to us, the audience.
Right.
And it's stuff like that I just feel like really, this is why he deserves.
I think in
this
general he doesn't
nomination.
get enough credit for being a good actor, Liam Neeson.
He's done a lot of movies where he's gonna get the wolf.
That's like the last 4 years.
Yeah.
Before that,
I like
he
him.
did
I
a lot
like
of
him,
good
but I
stuff.
think. Well, here's another thing, and we're about to get into another category, but talk about Best Director.
Mm-hmm.
I do think Spielberg gets performances out of actors that I don't see them come close to in other movies.
I think that's true.
And I think Neeson's one of them. I think Ben Kingsley, you see him almost every
pretty
time
solid
he
all the
knocks it
time.
out of the park. It's
Yeah.
like, I think, you could give him.
Ray Fiennes is great, but this was the best thing he's done, I think,
Yeah,
too. I think
yeah.
people expected
Yeah.
a lot more from him
Yeah.
after this movie.
He's really good in Quiz Show, too. I have to give him that.
That's true.
Yep.
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
another really good director.
Yeah.
Who gets great performances out of actors, Redford.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So, we're gonna skip screenplay. We'll come back to that. But let's talk a little bit more about Best Director for Spielberg. I think again, I just think there's stuff in here that is invisible, that is hard for people to see, like what he's doing.
Yeah, I think people, again, it's the mirror thing, right?
Yeah.
When it's working, nobody sees what he's doing.
Yeah.
It's when they see what he's doing that they go, well, that guy sucks. But mostly they don't see what he's doing.
Yeah. Yeah. I just, again, like every time I see this movie now, I see something else.
Yeah.
That is like, oh my God, look what he did there.
Yeah.
And like this time around, it was the scene, we talked about it before, where he's going to meet with Ben Kingsley for the first time. Mm-hmm. And there's a line of Jews waiting to get up to the second or third floor. It's a spiral staircase, and there's probably 200 people standing in line. And Liam Neeson comes in, Oskar Schindler just like walks right past everybody, goes to the front of the line, and is like, I want to see Stern. And just, you could have easily cut to him in the office having the meeting, because like, what's that all about? Who needs to see him walk up the stairs? But by seeing him walk past everybody, it says two things that, like, this guy doesn't wait in line for anybody, and he doesn't have to wait in line for anybody.
Yeah, it's really nice.
And that, to me, again, this is like visual storytelling.
He's so good at it.
Yeah.
He knows he budgets its close-ups. I mean, he knows when he's going to use a close-up and when he's not. Like there's a filmmaker who's got a film out right now who has no concept of budgeting close-ups. And so I always say it's like writing a novel with nothing but exclamation points as your punctuation. That Spielberg knows sometimes you got to use a period, sometimes you got to use a comma, sometimes because sometimes you want distance between you and the thing for whatever reason. And sometimes you want to be close. And he knows when to do those things, and they're not random choices. He does this really great thing where at the very beginning of the movie, just so many good things. But he does this thing where they're setting up and the streets are completely empty, and these guys are setting up these little tables, these little portable tables to take the names of all the Jews that are going to show up, right? So they're sitting down, and it's very quiet, and these guys are just taking out their tables, and then there's a close-up of a guy, and he says, name, and you pull back, and it's crowded, and it's later, it's, I mean, that's part editing, but it's directing, too. I mean,
You have to plan that.
Yeah. It's really nice. It's like, whoa, there's a lot of people. And having the empty streets gives you something to compare to. The streets that are empty, tell you that these streets are now full.
That's what I noticed last time I watched this.
Yeah.
Is how much compare and contrast that is done in this movie.
He's brilliant at it.
It's insane.
Yeah.
It's insane. And like the other thing I was going to talk about is just the cold, calculated, not even calculated, but just natural behavior of all the Nazis in the movie.
Yes.
So there's a scene where they're like running the Jews around the camp to see who's going to be healthy enough to like stay and work and who has to go to Auschwitz. And there's like 2 Nazi soldiers in the middle of all these people are running for their lives, literally, to prove that they're healthy enough. And there's just 2 German soldiers standing there like joking, knocking, like
It's another day at the office.
yeah,
Right.
exactly.
That's what it was to them.
Yeah, and there's like several moments like that
It's
throughout
not
the film.
overplayed, like, oh.
Yeah.
And
We're
I
not
feel
all
like
Colonel Clink.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
You
Is
know?
in the hands of somebody else, somebody would have been standing there twirling their mustache
right.
and rubbing their
With
hands
a long
together, like
cigarette.
Yeah.
yeah, like oh, I can't wait to get these Jews to Auschwitz.
Yeah.
but it's not. It's just like yeah. So
you
what'd
know,
you do last night?
Yeah.
Oh well, these people are running for their life. I had a bagel.
There's a
Well,
scene.
maybe
Probably not a bagel.
Maybe not a bagel.
There's a scene. There's a scene near the end where the train, the women who were supposed to go to the factory end up going to Auschwitz.
Auschwitz, yeah.
And so they're trying to explain who they are and like we're
Yeah.
Schindler's Jews,
Yeah.
But there's a scene because they want to separate the people who can work, from the people who can't. And there's this Nazi guy going through, and he kind of couldn't be a nicer in his manner, but he's like. I don't know if you remember, he kind of looks like a young Rex Reed, this guy. And he's walking through, and he says, "How old are you, mother?" He points to one.
Oh,
of them,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And he's so pleasant.
Yeah.
But it's all about if you're too old, you're gonna die. But
Yeah.
it's all very pleasantly. How old are you, mother? He's very nice about it. It's like, we're
Yeah.
Schindler's Jews.
Yeah.
Who's Oskar Schindler? I don't know who that is. But he doesn't. There's nothing mean about it.
No.
Like a lot of people. He would have to be mean. He doesn't have to be mean.
It's just a
What he's doing is mean.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
following orders.
Yeah. And he's just doing his job.
He's just doing his job.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter to him. They're not real people to him.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to be mean. He already has the power. A lot of actors, and I think a lot of directors think,
They're the bad guys.
yeah,
Right.
I'm the
They
bad
act
guy.
like bad guys.
They're judging their
Yeah.
characters. And so I know this is a bad guy, so I'll play him as a bad guy. And otherwise, how will people know he's a bad guy? It's like,
Right.
well, he's a Nazi. He's picking out people to be killed. Maybe that's how you know he's a bad guy.
Yeah.
If you have the power, you don't have to show that you have the power.
Right.
You don't need to
Right.
yell at anybody.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and there's a couple moments too similar where like during the liquidation of the ghetto, and there's like a Nazi playing with a kid. It's like, oh, look at
Right.
you, you're so cute, you're so cute,
Yeah.
and then he shoots his father,
Right.
Right.
and it's just like, oh yeah, your dad? No, he's on the list, but you're cute.
Yeah.
Go play.
Yeah.
That is the stuff that's just like you just watch that, you go like, oh my god, these people are cold.
Right. It's that coldness. It's that whole clearing out the ghetto thing.
Yeah.
That whole, I mean, that's so intense, and it goes on for so long, but in a perfect way to say what this was, to say that it was relentless and that it was endless.
Yeah.
And
then it has that great moment where Ray Fiennes' character
yeah.
sitting there like tired from all the work.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, I wish this night was over."
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
You're like gonna live. Yeah. You.
Yeah. It's there's so many moments in there where like a guy's trying to his wife is sick or his wife is hurt or something, and he's trying to like carry her somewhere, and he's like he says to the Nazi,
Oh, yeah,
I just
yeah,
want
yeah.
to take her in here, I just want
Yeah.
to take her in here, and the Nazi just shoots the woman like, hey, that's done, so move
Yeah.
on,
Yeah.
this kind of cold, like in The Kid Who Runs Away, there's a kid who runs
Yeah.
away, and they grab him. They shoot a couple people trying to shoot him, and then they grab him and pull him back. And the 2 soldiers who grab him, each by, they have one of his arms, and they bring him up to the soldier, and the soldier just shoots him, and that's it. It's just
No, but there's more because then they're upset. Like, hey, you could have shot us.
right. That's
Like,
true.
Yeah. Then they're
right.
upset.
They're upset.
Yeah.
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 But the coldness,
Well, the Jews weren't people to them.
right.
It would be
Right.
like
But
an
that's what
alien invade your neighborhood. You don't think twice about shooting him.
Right.
They're
Right.
not people.
Right. And
that's
And that's what that
beautifully-
showed. And it's just they don't think of themselves as bad guys.
right.
Right.
They're protecting their race.
Right.
They're, you
And
know,
there's almost
and it
there's,
shows that.
there's very few filmmakers who would do it that way.
Yeah.
There's very few filmmakers that would do it that way.
Most are going to, like, twirl the mustache.
Yeah.
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 Anyway, enough about Spielberg, huh? Best script, Steve Zaillian.
Well, that guy's just great.
Yeah.
You know?
I feel like we could just talk another hour about this.
About Zaillian or about...
Yeah.
We could.
Yeah.
There's so many...
Let's try not to.
Okay. In a way, we have been.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, that's... you know, this thing that with Schindler going down and talking to the maid, right? That's
Yeah.
It's writing.
That's writing.
Yeah.
Right?
The staircase, that's writing.
That's writing, right?
The way the Nazis act,
Yeah.
it's writing.
Well, yeah. Well, it's kind of writing. Because,
both.
Yeah, it's both.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah, we could talk about it, but we kind of have been. It's
Yeah.
brilliant, you know.
The only scene I wanted to bring up is the scene where Schindler's... I forget what starts off the scene where he's talking to Ben Kingsley. Liam Neeson's talking to Ben Kingsley, and he starts talking about, like, oh, Ray Fiennes' character. Yeah, no. He's really not a bad guy.
That's the amazing... Yes, I know what you're talking about.
He's not a bad guy, you know. He's just like me, you know. It's like, you know, he likes women, whatever. But he's okay. It's just, it's the war. War brings out the worst in people. Never the good.
Never the good.
Only-
Never the good. Yeah, it's amazing. And it's...
And
yeah.
it's like, no, this war is bringing out the best in
And it's just as
Yeah.
he's changing. It's
Yeah.
just as
Yeah.
Schindler's changing that he
Yeah.
says this. Where it always brings out the worst in people. Never the good. Never the good.
Yeah.
Which is really the theme of the piece.
Yeah.
Right? It can bring out the worst or the best in people.
Best picture? No.
Obviously.
No,
Oh.
I don't think so.
You like it? Oh, all right.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
What else was out that year?
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
Basically, at this point, people should just come hang out with us if they want to
If
hear
you
more.
want to hear more about...
'Cause-
Well, we could literally go on and on about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I you know, whatever complaints people have, people complain about the red coat a lot.
Yeah.
When Schindler sees
We covered that in the other podcast.
did you?
Yeah.
The red coat?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. If,
What do you
if
think
people
about
want
the
to talk
red
about
coat?
What do I think about
Yeah.
it? I think this, and apparently this is what Schindler saw, for one thing, but I mean in real life, but I think that if Spielberg errs, most of it's always that he's trying to be clear. He sometimes maybe is clearer than people would like him to be, but that's what makes his stuff work when it works, is that he's clear. That he is very interested in communicating to an audience, and when the girl is walking through the ghetto as it's being cleared out, he could maybe do that without the red coat. But later, when he sees her body,
Right.
I think there would be no way to.
Yeah,
Or
you
did
couldn't
a fire.
distinguish her.
Yeah, and I think it's all about later.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Now, do
Yeah.
you think that was planned, or that was something that wasn't clear enough when they're cutting the film together?
I have no idea.
That'd be interesting to know.
Yeah.
I have no idea, but
If
I
it was
bet you
like-
it would be. But I know that Schindler did see, or at least that according to Spielberg, he really did see a little girl
In red coat.
and I think in a red coat. Yeah, when he saw that. So I don't know.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
we're going to leave on a controversial note.
Okay.
The little
As
girl's red
usual.
coat.
Oh yeah.
Brian, thanks for joining us again.
Sure.
If people want to follow your exploits, it is on Twitter. What's your handle there?
At BMcD, BEEMACDEE.
Is that what it is? BEEMACDEE.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Until next time, remember, it's never too late to start thinking about the past.